Modern gaming is basically an embarrassment of riches for players, but it's also fair to say that with almost 20,000 games releasing on Steam alone in 2024, it's never been tougher for games to compete for our attention. As a result, it's probably unsurprising that even good ones can come and go like they never released at all. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 recent video games that have already been forgotten. Number 10, FBC Firebreak. FBC Firebreak is yet another entry into the wildly overcrowded live service multiplayer shooter genre, though it did at least have the halfway compelling hook of existing within the Control universe and being the first multiplayer game from Remedy Entertainment. Yet it launched back in June with a rather muted marketing campaign that simply failed to distinguish it from other games in the multiplayer shooter space. And so it wasn't remotely surprising that FBC Firebreak dipped below 100 concurrent players on Steam within just 3 weeks of launch. While we can't ignore that the game also released as part of Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, allowing it to rack over 1 million players within barely a week of release, the data suggests that just as many people tried the game in that short period of time ended up leaving after just a few sessions. As of early August, FBC Firebreak is down to just a few dozen concurrents on Steam, making it clear that all but the diehards tried it and then swiftly moved on. Number 9, Eternal Strands. Eternal Strands is a quintessential example of a 7 out of 10 game. An enjoyable but flawed effort that ultimately didn't do enough to really stand out from the glut of colourful action-adventure titles out there. With a Metacritic score of 69, nice, it was decent but ultimately not something that really held the attention, because when you've got a decent game inspired by greats like Shadow of the Colossus and Monster Hunter, well, why wouldn't you just play those superior ones instead? Upon releasing then back in January, Eternal Strands debuted to just 745 concurrent players on Steam, which even accepting its simultaneous release on Xbox Game Pass isn't an encouraging figure. Even worse, in the weeks that followed, this number swiftly fell off a cliff, and 6 months after the game came out, it's barely being whispered about in gaming discourse at all. Number 8, Bionic Bay. Bionic Bay is a ludicrously entertaining indie platformer that released back in April to strong reviews from critics, but sadly largely failed to make a dent with players en masse. Despite its absolutely stunning art style and clever physics-based platforming gameplay, Bionic Bay came and went in a blink, barely registering 300 reviews on Steam almost 4 months after launch, with an all-time concurrent player peak of just 189. Even accepting the game's rather paltry marketing campaign, this thing kind of had sleeper hit written all over it, that enthusiastic streamers could propel it to easy sales success. Instead, despite the phenomenal craft that went into it and general industry appreciation, it's inexplicably blended into a sea of retro-styled indie platformers that release seemingly every week. You can only hope then that Bionic Bay might pick up year-end plaudits from outfits like the Game Awards and get some well-deserved new attention shone on it then, but you just never know. Number 7, Game of Thrones Kingsroad. The gorgeous cinematic reveal trailer for Game of Thrones Kingsroad understandably led many to assume that it was a AAA action-adventure game based on the Game of Thrones IP. But a thunderclap of disappointment was felt across the entire gaming sphere when it was revealed to be a free-to-play mobile and PC game. And so, to the surprise of nobody, Kingsroad received wildly mixed reviews from critics and players alike, with many calling out its grind-heavy gameplay and overall clunkiness. While it's fair to say, however, that not everyone has forgotten about the game, given that it still has well over 1,000 concurrent players on Steam since releasing at the end of May, considering the many millions of fans who were in the market for a full-fat open-world AAA game based on the IP, most of them seemingly stopped paying attention once they got to grips with it. Number 6, South of Midnight. Xbox Game Pass has had a pretty strong year so far, if you ask me. Between first-party drops like Doom, The Dark Ages, and Avowed, as well as third-party day-one releases like Clair Obscur Expedition 33 and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, there has been a constant stream of talked-about games hitting the service. One that flew right under the radar, however, was South of Midnight. Compulsion Games' throwback action-adventure title had previewed at big Xbox events for years, and with its retro stylings, gorgeous stop-motion animation, and intriguing setting, it looked like it might end up enjoying a similar audience that embraced the likes of Kena Bridge of Spirits a few years ago. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and despite reviewing decently, South of Midnight failed to resonate with an audience. Though Microsoft's vague in-house stats claimed that it reached 1 million players in the first month, it's clear from trophy data and Steam player counts that only a fraction stuck with the game beyond the opening couple of hours, leaving it to be one of those that you, tragically, might have forgotten came out at all. Number 5, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. It's not unfair to say that Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour will be best remembered, if it will at all, for the controversy surrounding its price rather than anything about the actual game itself. A minigame collection designed as an introduction to the Switch 2 hardware, it was widely expected to be a free pack-in game, only for Nintendo to actually charge £7.99 or $10 for the pleasure. People understandably complained about Nintendo charging for something so bare bones when Sony dared to release the decidedly more sophisticated Astro's Playroom as a free PS5 pack-in on launch. But it took no more than a few days for Switch 2 Welcome Tour to evaporate from the cultural consciousness. The people who were always going to buy it did just that, and everyone else was too busy enjoying Mario Kart World to give it another thought. And it's safe to say that mediocre critical reviews didn't vindicate Welcome Tour at all. Number 4, Shadow Labyrinth. Shadow Labyrinth was nothing if not a bold attempt to do something new with a classic IP, given that it's a gritty Metroidvania reimagining of the Pac-Man franchise. More to the point, Shadow Labyrinth had the enormous benefit of tying in with an episode of Amazon's recent animated series Secret Level, which effectively served as a mega-budget promotion for the game. Despite having a lot going for it though, Shadow Labyrinth ultimately had a strangely low-profile launch, releasing to mixed reviews and peaking at barely 400 concurrent players on Steam, and then dropping below 100 less than 2 weeks after launch. Considering the enduring popularity of both Metroidvanias and Pac-Man, that's a pretty shocking result, yet considering the game had little to distinguish it from other better genre offerings outside of its IP window dressing, maybe it shouldn't be all that surprising. Number 3, Lost Records Bloom and Rage. Lost Records Bloom and Rage is the undeniable spiritual successor to the Life is Strange franchise, given that it's a narrative-driven adventure game from the original Life is Strange developer Dontnod and tackles similar coming-of-age themes wrapped up in a supernatural mystery. Yet considering how overwhelmingly passionate the Life is Strange fan base is, it's honestly kind of surprising how little impact this well-received new adventure actually made, and peaked briefly just shy of 3,000 once again when the second episode dropped. However, considering that even the wildly polarizing last Life is Strange game, Double Exposure, peaked at almost triple that figure, it's not hugely indicative of Bloom and Rage having much staying power, even accepting that it was also available on PS Plus at launch. More to the point, Bloom and Rage's meager concurrent player count months after the fact is easily dwarfed by the earlier Life is Strange games, likely suggesting that players haven't really been compelled to replay it in the same way. Though Dontnod decided to release Tape 2 2 months after Tape 1 in an attempt to maximize engagement and build buzz, it doesn't seem like it's really paid off. And that's a real shame if you ask me. I'm going through the game right now, and I'm absolutely loving it. Number 2, Mind's Eye. You knew this one was coming. Mind's Eye is an action-adventure game that feels like it pretty much came out of nowhere, though it received a substantial marketing push in the weeks leading up to its release. Given that it was directed by Grand Theft Auto producer Leslie Benzies and the trailers did look somewhat interesting, it at least seemed like a game that would linger around in the gaming consciousness for a good while, but maybe it has, but not for the right reasons. That's because Mind's Eye was a true flash-in-the-pan game, one which barely anyone knew about a month before release, before it was widely panned by critics and players alike, and then just vanished as if it never even existed. Indeed, critics weren't given review copies of Mind's Eye. The CLO and CFO of developer Builder Rocket Boy left the company a week before release, and the devs even tried to stop people streaming the game on launch. So it probably surprised nobody that Mind's Eye released feeling blatantly unfinished. And even when the game did work, it was mostly a generic rehash of better games we've all played before. Amid scathing reviews, Mind's Eye peaked with roughly 3,300 concurrents on Steam, yet that number dropped by 90% just 6 days after launch, when reports emerged of players en masse seeking refunds. They didn't even just stop playing, they were like, I want my money back. Number 1, To a T. To a T is a delightfully charming new puzzle adventure game from Keita Takahashi, the genius behind the wonderfully bizarre Katamari franchise. Here, players take control of a character only known as Teen, a 13-year-old who is stuck in a T pose and must navigate life with the awkward impediment. Yeah, I can see this getting very annoying, actually. Despite the intriguingly weird hook with easy viral potential, though, To a T was released in late May and barely made a dent at all. Even with the considerable fanbase of the Katamari franchise, To a T launched with only most minimal of marketing pushes, ensuring that it peaked with just 101 concurrent players on Steam and felt a single digits barely a month after launch. Though the game ultimately received kind of lukewarmly positive reviews from critics, it's still kind of baffling that such an odd piece of work was able to disappear from the conversation in basically record time. Enough that even most Katamari fans seem to barely pay any attention at all. So that's our list. Are there any games on here that passed you by? And are there any that you wish got their time to shine and gain that bigger fan base? Let me know. And also, if you want, you can click a video on screen now or head to What Culture Gaming for more lists, news, and editorials like this that you can watch until your heart's content. Until next time, bye-bye.